Hey, fourth grade, how we doing? Good to see you again. I spent a lot of time talking last week about how we would make the transition to band once fifth grade kind of happens. I did not get any other questions, so I must have done at least an okay job explaining it. But I did think of one thing that I wanted to add there. If you do band, it does not happen outside of school. It happens during music class time. So, like, for example, in fourth grade at Brown School, your music time is usually on a Friday morning or Monday morning. If you don't have me, you expect me to come into your classroom around 10:15 or around 11. In fifth grade, your music time is a little bit earlier. So fifth grade music time on either Monday or Friday is either 8:40 in the morning or 9:25. And when I come to the classroom, people who are doing band would go down to the gym at that time to do band with Mrs. Hart. People who decide that continuing on an instrument is not for them, they would stay with me for general music, okay? So if band is something you are interested in, you don't have to show up early before school. You don't have to give up recess. It happens during your music class time, just in a separate room, okay? So I am in your book, I am at page 18, and I want to do a little refreshing with that low E. I want to learn a new song with it, and I also want to introduce you to a new note today, okay? So we're going to start by reviewing Rain, Rain, Go Away, but let's look at the notes that go into there. So the newest one is that low E. We get that by doing 3 fingers on the left hand and the thumb as well. To get the E, we add the first 2 fingers on the right hand. So just like this, okay? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. When we play that, and I'm going to play just a measure of quarter notes, it should sound like this. 1, 2, ready, go. And it's worth taking the time to kind of play along with that just to make sure you've got a good handle on that E. Now, the other 2 notes that we played in Rain, Rain, Go Away, we had G and we had A, okay? 2 notes you guys have been doing since August. You should feel pretty good about them by now, okay? So Rain, Rain, Go Away. Let's go ahead and let's do it together. If you feel like you're really struggling with it, or maybe you missed it last week, the video I put up last week, it's still up there. I'll walk you through it in a little bit more detail, but you don't want to sit through a 25-minute video this week, so I won't walk you through it again today, okay? So Rain, Rain, Go Away. Our starting note is G, but we're ready to put that E down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And repeat. And there's our ending, okay? So let's look at the next one down, Native American Dance. And this one uses pretty much all the same notes. I know it looks longer, it might even look more complicated, but it's the same 3 notes. We're starting with A, we add G in the next measure, and then in the third measure, we're going to add E. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this, depending on the difficulty of each measure, we're going to go through this a measure or 2 at a time, okay? So the very first 2, we're going to just kind of clump together, because we start off with A half notes, something you've been able to play since October, okay? So it's going to go A, G, G, and it'll sound like this. Let's do a slowed down count off. Let's try that together. Starting note is A. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just kick it back and try it again if you need that, okay? Next one we're also going to do in a group of 2. It's a third measure in the piece, is not too bad. We might take it on its own, except that the last measure after that is just a whole note. So it's easy enough to tack that A on afterwards. So if we're reading measures 3 and 4 on the top line of Native American Dance, and this is still on page 18, we're going to read it as E, 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 G, A. It'll sound like this. And we want to try our best to hold that A for 4 beats since it is a whole note, okay? So I'm going to give you a count off so we can play those two measures, together. Here we go, starting with E. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, that's the idea. Let's take a break and try the entire first line. Those 4 measures that we've practiced now all kind of pushed together, starting with A. 1, 2, ready, go. The idea. So when we go to the second line, actually, before we go to the second line, let's look at something. Usually we get so used to seeing the same things to lead our music off that we mentally skip over them. But if you look at the beginning of Native American dance, there is a treble clef, and then instead of, we usually see a time signature here, 4/4, we just have a big letter C. And the reason we have that, it's short for common time. If you look through this book, you'll occasionally see your time signature as 3/4, but most of the time it's 4/4. In fact, it's so common that musicians began a few hundred years ago calling it common time sometimes. There's no difference between it. It still means there's going to be 4 beats in every measure. It just looks different, and we have it in the book because if you pulled music from another source besides the music book we play from, it could be there. And Mrs. Hart and I wanted you to kind of be prepared for that, not to, go off on your own, find a piece of music you'd like to learn, and be completely bewildered by the fact that there's a C instead of a set of 4s. It means the exact same thing, common time, 4 beats in every measure, okay? So let's look at the second line down. Here we have some 8th notes, so even though we don't really have any new pitches, we are going to have to move a little bit faster with the breath anyway. This measure is going to go E, G, 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 E, and it'll sound like this. Rhythm is key here because all we're doing with the pitch is 5 down, lift those 2, put them back. Easy as that. So let's try this measure. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay. Next measure is pretty easy, but there's enough going on in the first one, I didn't want to group them together. So next measure is actually one we've done before. A, G, G. So let's just go ahead and do a count off and kind of work our way through it. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay. Now let's try and stick those 2 together. The first 2 measures on the bottom line, E, G, 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 E, A, G, G. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, kind of a bit going on in the second to last measure here, but same deal as the line above. Even though this measure is a little bit tricky because it jumps around, we land on a whole note. So we're going to go ahead and attach the last measure here. What we've got is we've got A, G, E, G, and E on that last whole note, landing on E, ending the song after we hold it for 4 beats, okay? It'll sound like this. Oh, not like that, don't do that. And it's easy enough on the finger position because we're just starting on A, then we add to the G, fingers down, fingers back up. That's it, that's all there is to it, okay? So let's count it off and try those 2 measures together. 1, 2, ready, go. Held for 4 beats, okay. Second line has a little more going on there, but I think we got it. And if you don't feel super good about it, ready to put the whole second line together, rewind me a minute or 2 and just keep trying it until you feel good about it, okay? Nice and slow, and just, as we always say, practice makes progress. The more you try and play through it, the better it's going to get every time. Okay, so here is that second line with a pretty slow count off, starting on E. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, same deal. We're going to go through the entire thing now. If you feel good about it, join me. If you're not quite there yet, rewind a little bit and get yourself comfortable. Okay, so starting on A's top line. No repeat sign on this either. We go through we go through the 2 lines and we're done. 1, 2, ready on A. Here we go. Next line. And that's the idea, okay? So let's take a peek at something that we're going to add in next week, okay? Page 19 has a song called Let's Play Low D. Now, we already know how to play a D, and we've talked about this in the last couple of videos about how when you play an instrument, you're not just going to learn one of every note. You don't learn A and say, okay, that's it, I got A, totally done. There's higher and lower versions of it, and depending on what instrument you play, you might have, you know, all kinds of different versions. If you are a guitar player or a piano player, you could have D, D, D. Okay? And just a ton of them. Thankfully, for the most part with Recorder, we only have usually 2 versions of each one. Sometimes we don't even have that much, okay? So for D, you got a high one, and we get that with middle finger and leave the thumb off. And you've got a low one, and that's it. You don't have to learn a third one, okay? Now, we just kind of keep going in order. You've got E now. All we do to get D is add that next finger. So we've got 1, 2, 3 in the left, 1, 2, 3 in the right, okay? And as we always say, when you go to a lower note, you got to put that air in softly. You could have your fingers down absolutely perfect, but if you blow too hard, it's going to squeak, okay? So I make sure my fingers are totally covered, especially that ring finger on the right hand, because there's 2 little holes that you have to make sure that your finger is sitting on top of. And a low D should kind of sound like this. The rhythm that we get on page 19 is easy enough. Now, it is missing a bar line, okay? If you are, you know, you guys know your note values, you should be able to kind of figure out where it is. But on the off chance that, you know, it gives you a little grief, you start off with 2 half notes. Half notes are worth 2. Together, they're going to add up to 4. We see a bar line there. Perfect. Okay? In the next measure, there are 4 quarter notes. That third one looks a little strange because it doesn't have a stem, but that's you feel free to draw it in there if you have a paper copy in front of you. There is no note that is a filled-in note head but has no stem. That you will never come across that. Okay? Obviously, if that were not filled in, it would be a whole note, but that should have a stem, okay? And there's something like that later on in the song. The next measure, which is 2 measures because this is where the missing bar line is, it looks like kind of a hat sitting on top of the rest. That's going to be a half rest, okay? That's going to get 2 beats, and then we're going to finish it off with the 2 quarter notes there. So it'll be rest, rest, 3, 4, okay? And then we add, there's another quarter note. The bar line goes, if you're looking at the end, there's 3 quarter notes. You put it after the second one, okay? And there, it's before the quarter note that, again, has that stem cut off. So our song ends by going bump with a rest, okay? So I'm going to walk you through Let's Play Low D. We're going to do it without the repeat, though, okay? So we have low D set up, 1, 2, 3 in the left, 1, 2, 3 in the right. We give it a little test to make sure it's coming out the right sound. And here is our rhythm. 1, 2, ready, go. rest, rest, and then we rest from there as well, okay? That's the idea. So you could see I got a little squeaky there. I put too much air in. You have to be very careful, especially when the teacher says, be careful with it, tries their best to demonstrate that and still lets a little squeak in, okay? So when you play that this week, if you get that, no big deal. Your fingers are probably set up okay. It never hurts to double check them, but you're probably okay there. Just make sure that you practice putting that breath in. It's not as important on something like a B. That's going to pretty much sound the same no matter how you blow in it as when we have most of the instrument covered up. Okay? So, enjoy that. Best of luck. Lots of practice makes progress. And I will see you guys back next week. Take it easy. Bye.